We can get the things that he wants so I won't be selfish. And of course, that resolved nothing. So then in conversations, it would just keep getting worse and worse. And then, of course, the conversation would come back up again and he would be like, you're being selfish.
Kate's marriage was struggling and she could not figure out what to do.
I would make sure he had nothing to do, make the dinners, clean the house, take care of our parents, do all the finances. And of course, that never made him happy. And I was still selfish because of the way I was approaching our relationship.
It got so bad.
My 9-year-old at the time grabbed my 6-year-old daughter and he brought her into her room because he didn't want her seeing this fight. And it was just heartbreaking.
It seemed like there was only one way out.
And at that point, I had told him, I can't do this anymore. And I visited a divorce attorney.
Until she tried something she had never done before.
Had you asked me to do anything else, I think I would have put the book down and just been like, I can't put anything else on my list, Laura. Like, I'm sorry. And you didn't say that. You said, it's time for you to stop.
But will it work?
He started just interacting differently.
Kate, welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast. I'm so excited you're here.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here too.
So as you know, I love to hear about the bad old days. What was going wrong in your marriage that you were looking for divorce attorneys?
Yeah. I mean, quite a bit. So when we first got engaged, he had asked me why I wanted to marry him. And I told him that it was because I knew exactly the man he was going to be in 40 years. Like, he's just such a strong, valued, dedicated, committed man. And I tell you that because I'm going to latch on to that through the entire story. But right after we got married, even a little bit before, I just really started to get very controlling. And of course, I didn't know it then. But the fear and the control took over so quickly. And I think most people would have described me as kind of a fearless person. And I might have described me that way as well. But really, that's where all that control was rooted in. And that started to penetrate every single part of our marriage. Mm-hmm. And it eventually just kind of rolled into this cascade of just really a terrible cycle that we got in. So, for instance, one of the things that I kind of controlled from the very beginning was our finances. You know, we got married young and like nothing went right when you get married. It's all like just trying to survive. And that immediately turned to me taking over the finances. And that would be like something that stayed with us for, well, we've been married 14 and a half years now. So 14 years. And it would go into every aspect. So he would, I would pack his lunch for him because I didn't want him spending money on food. And I would say, oh, don't stop at the grocery store or don't stop at the gas station to get your Red Bulls. I will get them for you at the store because you're going to save 25 cents. And somehow that's going to make a huge difference in our life. And then, of course, if we get into like bigger things, like where do we spend the money on the kids? Or you need to get a different job, or we need to make more money and I need to go back to work, or don't buy that new truck that we need, like everywhere. Mm-hmm. So the finances became just this huge point of contention. And of course, you know, that kind of goes into every aspect of your life. And then things outside of that started to deteriorate. So for instance, I started to kind of control like everything that is his. And I thought I was being really helpful. So he has a mental health thing, which I won't get into out of respect for him, but it's been there and it will always be there. But somewhere along the way, I started to like think that I needed to control that. So I would set up his appointments and I would make sure he goes. And sometimes I would ask to go with him and refill his medicine and ask him to switch medicines or, you know, all kinds of crazy stuff that just, I can see looking back, probably felt to him like, why can't I trust him to handle this? You know, and that becomes really a big part of how much he decided to keep taking on. This would also go into like parenting problems. So I would have this fear that, you know, he would parent too hard, with my son, and then not enough with my daughter because, she's a little girl and he's a big boy. So he would, if he was trying to teach my son a lesson, I would be like, you're being too hard on him. And then when he was trying to like, be close with my daughter, I'm like, you're letting her get away with everything. And there was no interaction that they could have that wasn't like there was some sort of intervention from me or some sort of talk about how that wasn't the way that I would hope to see their relationship evolving. Somehow thought I knew how to be a dad. So, so
Yeah. Yeah. And I can really see how, a mental health challenge, could contribute to a lot of this too, right? Like you would have to do the finances, of course, because he's got this mental health challenge. And you would feel like you could rationalize, like, well, I'm the better parent because he's got this mental health challenge. I really, I don't know if I'm just imposing my experience on, because I had that certainly early on in my marriage too. But, and I know you don't, I'm not asking you to share what it was or what it is, but, was that something that got diagnosed after you got married or before?
no,
Okay.
no, this is something that's like, it's just part of who he is actually part of something I really love about him too. But at the time, it just becomes a scapegoat for everything. If
Right.
I need an excuse to justify how I'm showing up, that's really great one.
Yeah.
He needs help because of this or whatever. So it just turned into this really easy point to control or to rationalize whatever I was trying to rationalize.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And you tell this story with beautiful accountability, which I love. But at the time, I'm imagining you were thinking things like, he's no good with finance or he's not a good dad or
Mhm.
things like that.
Yeah, and I could find evidence for any of that. I think, I think I was just so scared of everything that can go wrong that I thought that if I controlled it, then I would have a say in the outcome. And I think looking back, I can say that's just really not how life works. But that was kind of my default of if I can control it, then I will be able to like know what the outcome is. So I'll control the finances to get this outcome and I'll control this to get that outcome. And my kids will be better people if I control that. And then of course, like this deteriorates into our communication over time. Death by a thousand cuts. So when we first got married, he was like kind of tolerant of it. But then over time, it just really like depreciates the value between us as a couple. And we would start having the same cyclical conversation over and over and over again. And over time, like you get little snippets, little nuggets of like, oh, that was good progress we made or something like that, but nothing would get resolved. And then I thought that like I was really responsible for his happiness.
Mm.
So it was my job to make him happy. Um, so I would try to do that while controlling everything I wanted. And this, a lot of times, he started to describe me as selfish. And I want to give an example of how this looks because it was something that was like a light bulb moment for me when I got into your program. He would come to me with, let's say, a conversation about his work. And it was something like, I think I want to switch jobs because of this, this, and this. And I'm upset about these problems. And these people aren't doing, things the way that I want. And instead of hearing him and instead of listening, I would be thinking of my response to him. Because in my head, I'm thinking, you can't leave your job. That's going to give us some financial problems. And this is probably all your fault. And, of course, there's some like mental health issues that I can attribute to something that really has nothing to do with anything because he's a very capable man. So I would be coming to him when he's coming to me trying to express his emotions. I would be telling him why they're not right. So it would come out like, well, I don't think you should leave your job. And I think you should tell this person to do that. And have you thought about this? And did you talk to your boss about all these problems? And I really just think this is a little bit more of a you thing. Did you think about how you contributed to all of this? And he would feel so unheard. And he would tell me, I feel so unheard. It's like you find every point to argue with me as opposed to just listening. So then I thought, okay, well, I'm obviously doing something wrong here. So I stopped talking, like altogether. And then he got upset about that because he had nobody to come to. Like,
Wow.
there was no one for him to talk to because I was his person. And he no longer felt safe coming to me because I kept shutting him down. And he no longer felt like I can offer anything because I decided that him telling me I wasn't communicating correctly meant that I should say nothing at all. So then I felt like I have no voice at all in anything. And then, of course, there's this resentment that starts building up because for me to be able to save my marriage, I cannot have an opinion about anything.
Oh,
And that
oh,
is a really empty place to sit in, right? Like, you're
it
like,
is.
and then of course, because he would tell me I'm selfish, I started thinking that meant I wasn't doing enough. It's like, Kate, you're really selfish. And later I would see that like what he meant by that was controlling. But because I would be saying, you can't leave your job. We can't get a new truck. We can't do this. And he said, you're really selfish because I wouldn't support him in what he wanted. But I translated that to, I need to do more. So then I would start picking up more. Like, okay, I got to do more around the house. I got to get my master's degree while I have a infant on my lap. I got to do all these things to make us better, to make us more money so that we can get the things that he wants so I won't be selfish. And of course, that resolved nothing. So then in conversations, it would just keep getting, worse and worse. And then, of course, the conversation would come back up again and he would be like, you're being selfish. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, I have to do more. So then I would pick up, things around the farm. I would take the kids to all of their stuff. I would get a second job. I would make sure he had nothing to do, make the dinners, clean the house, take care of our parents, do all the finances. And of course, that never made him happy. And I was still selfish because of the way I was approaching our relationship.
Which
And
is
that cycle just got out of
right.
control.
Yeah.
It was out of control. Yeah.
Oh, painful.
So of course, that's just really challenging to feel like you can never do enough for somebody. You can never help them be happy. And like I said, that was my job. So I was going to do it really well.
Yeah.
But it never worked. Never worked.
You must have been exhausted too. And so hurt and exhausted. Like he didn't seem to appreciate all those things you were doing.
No.
About degree with the baby. Oh.
Yeah. And then of course, like my husband is this kind, gentle, loving person. He's that person I married when I knew he was going to be that person for 4 years. So he would come to me knowing that I was unhappy, trying to make me happy. He would say, how about we do this? Like, how about we get more farm animals? And I had no idea what I wanted. So I thought, oh, he wants more farm animals. I have to agree with this because if I say no, I'm selfish. But really what he was asking was, can I do something to make you happy? And since I had no idea what that looked like, it was just this constant thing of him putting forth ideas that I then had to handle later. They became my issue. And then the resentment just got so much. It just got so much because then I would have more farm animals to take care of.
no.
You
didn't want more farm animals.
No.
Not the desire.
No. They're cute and all. I like them now that I have a lot less to do. But at the time, I was like, no, I don't need a goat to take care of. I don't want to milk a goat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he's still wanting to make you happy and you're still wanting to make him happy. Neither of you are happy and you are feeling like a mute who can't express her opinions and who's also incredibly overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
Being responsible for everything. And you're having this recurring conversation that ends in a like enormous amount of tension or a big blow up, possibly, I guess.
Usually just a silent treatment. Yeah. Where, but it was so hard because you have two people who love each other so much. We knew that, but that doesn't translate to it works well. So I think both of us were just coming to the table totally exhausted with trying to make it work and not knowing how to do it. and that's a really lonely place to be in. And all of these things that I say, um, I, I know he feels similarly. Like he was not,
enjoying it.
showing up happy. Like,
No.
he wasn't happy in all of this either. So that's really a tough place to be in when you want something to work just so bad and it's just not coming together at all.
Was there a moment when you said, we can't go on like this? Like we,
There was two. Yeah, these are the two in the intro. You said I was searching divorce attorneys, and there was two. When we were about 4 or 5 years into our marriage, the way that I used to get what I wanted, which I didn't always know what it was to kind of like go about conversations from every angle I could just to get what I needed so that I can say, we talked about this. And really, I degraded you until you gave me the answer that I was looking for. So at like 4 years into our marriage, after one child and I was pregnant with the other, I decided we needed to move from our current residence across states, to the East Coast. And I had 100 reasons why, but he had a new career that he was loving. He had a job that he worked really hard to get. We had a great group of friends. I had a wonderful job. Our kids were happy. But I still decided that we need to move to the South. And these are all the reasons why. And I would tell him all the reasons why. And when he would say, okay, if that's what you want to do, we'll go. Then I would tell him all the reasons why not. Like, this is why we shouldn't go. And then he'd be like, okay, maybe we shouldn't. And then that cycle would just go on until like I made him make a choice. And at that point, he explained this to me later. So I know I'm a little on his paper, but he's like, yeah, but it felt like you were making me make the choice so I could hold that responsibility. So like essentially I could tell him, well, you were part of this discussion, and really I didn't hear any part of his discussion. So we moved because he wants to make me happy, and everything that he said would go wrong went wrong. His career kind of tanked down there. He is from the South, so he knew what we were getting into, and I am not. I was not a fan of it culturally. I didn't like what my kids were being exposed to. The job setup that we had down there didn't work out, and everything just got so angry. So for 2 years, it was like blow up fights at that point of what is going wrong. And then, of course, this blame and resentment from both sides of why are we here? And at that point, I had told him I can't do this anymore. And I visited a divorce attorney, which was true. I did, and I was done. And he stormed out and left and called one of our best friends, his best friend, who, by the grace of God, was like, hey, I think you should turn around. And he did. My husband did. He turned around, he came back, and we kind of just left it like that for a month or two. And then in a rare moment of surrender, he said, I think we either recommit to our marriage and do what we need to do to make it work, or we move on. And both of us said, we want to recommit to our marriage. So the divorce was off the table at that point, and we moved back to where we are now, which is where we need to be. So that was the first time when I thought I was done with this. And the second time, which was a little over a year ago, which is when I found you, was when I told you I controlled everything about his mental health. He came to me one time and said, I'd like to do this treatment. And I said, okay, like it costs a ton of money. I don't know how it's going to work, whatever. There's all these reasons. And I was just done fighting. I said, okay. So he started doing them and things started to get a lot better for him. Like these are, this is really a program that was really helping him. But the fights continued. And at that point, he had already made so many changes that it became really challenging for me to blame him at this point, because he's doing everything I asked at this point, and I'm still feeling this way. So something must be going on here that has to do with me. And one night I was being incredibly disrespectful. He had gone out because I was stomping around the house, making a fuss, and he had gone out and stayed out late. And when he came home, God, this is so embarrassing. I had this huge blow up, just a huge blow up. And Usually, like I said, we're much more of like a stomp around quiet treatment. This wasn't that. This was midnight and I was yelling and I was screaming and I slammed doors and my kids came out because I woke them up. And uh, my, God, he was 9-year-old at the time, grabbed my 6-year-old daughter and he brought her into her room because he didn't want her seeing this fight. And it was just heartbreaking. It was just heartbreaking. Because of all the things, like, I don't want to punish them because of, my failures. And I recognize that there's two people in this relationship, but this is the only part that I can own. So, that's why I say my failures. So the next morning, when he was talking to me, he said, listen, I know that's not like you, but we need to figure something out because we can't go on like this. And if I can't find this relationship with you, then I'm going to have to try to get it elsewhere. And I didn't see this as a threat of divorce or infidelity. I saw it as him trying to own his own happiness. So like, I don't think he meant it. And I talked to him about this later, and I don't think he meant it like, I'm going to go out and search for this with another woman. I think he meant, I'm going to go out and go camping. I'm going to go out and start enjoying my life and talk to my friends and build these relationships that I want so badly in my marriage. But it was still a very real moment of, I'm not that person to him. And that is a really lonely spot to be too, especially when, man, I am doing every single thing I can to be that person for him. So, so I started searching some divorce attorneys because I thought, well, there ain't no coming back from this. And I was like, let's do like one last ditch effort. And I did another Google search, which, I had done 100 times before. I've tried quite a few things. And I found you. And I thought, hey, this is different. Let's give it a shot. So that's when I found your book. And thank goodness it did, because it kind of changed everything.
Oh, wow. That was a painful, painful day, lonely, awful day. But it sounds like you ended it with feeling hopeful.
I did. Yeah, I did. With a little bit of hope. But if nothing else, it was one of those moments where it was like, I refuse to give up my marriage without trying everything. So this is different. Let's try it.
Yeah. Gosh. I'm relieved. I'm relieved we got to that part. What else had you tried? Like, had you guys gone to marriage counseling?
I had gone to marriage counseling. He would not go. But that's not really the best way to do marriage counseling. And maybe that has a place for everybody. Like, I'm not trying to knock on how anybody else approaches things, but I had done marriage counseling and personal counseling. And it turned into, man, a lot of stuff when I did the marriage counseling and the guy's behalf, he was like, if he's not going to come and you're just going to come and complain and I'm only going to get one side of the story, then really this is about you coming and complaining and not improving. And I was like, well, that's very true. Like, you are my vent session essentially, but that didn't give me any skills to fix it. So it was like, okay, like, what else do I need to put on my list? I need to be more compassionate. I need to do that. Like, what do these things look like? So it just felt like, do more, do more, do more, do more. And none of it ever materialized. And then I would go to like personal counseling and they would, bless them. Like, I'm not saying anything bad about it, but they'd be like, well, what happened in your childhood to promote this? And I'm like, I'll be honest, like, I have a beautiful childhood. Like, nothing. Like, maybe there is, but like, I would be fishing and I don't care. Like, I want to figure out what to do today. So I never bought into that. And maybe that's the problem. But it was my reality of like, I don't buy this. And then of course I read some more books. And I love their message. They're like, cherish each other, love each other, do this. And you're like, how? Like, I thought I was doing that. I thought I was being respectful. I was cherishing him. I was appreciating. I thought I was doing all those things. And I think I was, but not in a man's eye of stuff. I was doing it from a woman's perspective.
Wow.
And those are very different places to be.
Yeah, it is very different. So, okay. So, all right. So now you've got the book,
Mm-hmm.
and, maybe some other resources too. Like I bet you were listening to the podcast. Is that
I
right?
was, yep.
Okay, cool. And so what did you do differently from what you'd been?
Yeah. Yeah, I got the book. Woo! Yeah, I love to read. So I took a day when I was supposed to be working. I hope my boss never listens to this. I took a day when I was supposed to be working. I read the whole thing, start to finish. It was just immediately like capturing exactly how I felt with things. And like all the women who come on here, you've got some sort of microphone in our house. And that was very true. And then, of course, in the book, you referenced the podcast. So I started listening to those. And then after about 2 weeks, I started doing some things I'll tell you about. But after about 2 weeks, I started doing some things that I thought were like, wow, this is really making an impact already. So at that point, I decided to join the Ridiculously Happy Wives Club, really reluctantly, because, I was just going to do this all on my own. For some reason, I'm unlike everybody else and don't eat any sport, which is not.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I decided to join, and then I thought maybe just for a month, and then I was like, okay, just for 3 months, and I was like, maybe just for six. Yeah, well, like 15 months later, I'm still here. Um, so things just kept getting better and better, and what I started with. In your book, you talk about all these different skills, but the two I immediately turned to were self-care and duct tape. So self-care, this is one where in your book, you're like, make a list of 20 things. I think it's 20. It might be 22. I can't remember. I got to 3. I got to 3, and then I had to work really hard to get to 5, and 10 felt impossible. And by the time I got to 20, I was putting things on there that were like, ridiculous stuff. Like, I remember putting on that, I like to do the dishes, like somehow that's self-care. And then of that list, like none of that stuff is still on there. None of them are frivolous fun. I was like, I like to exercise. And it's like, no, I don't. Your definition of self-care, is really different than caring for yourself. Like caring for myself is exercise, eating well, getting some sleep. Maybe those are on like myself, but that frivolous fun that brings me joy was very challenging for me to find. And I thought, man, this woman is onto something because I can't come up with 5. And I was so encouraged because you were the first person who was like, hey, stop doing stuff. Take more off your list. Have a little fun. And I was like, had you asked me to do anything else, I think I would have put the book down and just been like, I can't put anything else on my list, Laura. Like, I'm sorry. And you didn't say that. You said it's time for you to stop. I thought, this is worth trying, right? Like, if nothing else, I'll feel a little better. But yeah, so now my self-care list is like kind of out of control. I was drafting it the other day and I got to 36 really easy. And some of them are the most ridiculous things.
I want to hear about these ridiculous things.
Yes, I wrote them down for you thinking you might ask that.
I am for sure. Let's hear it.
Yeah, so I do a little bit of like the facials and stuff like that, like, get my hair. I do some of that, but I'm talking about like the ridiculous things I can do from home with no money that just make me smile. And on the list, I have like cloud watching. And I don't mean like cumulus nimbus. I mean like, oh, look, a dinosaur, or can you find a shoe in that cloud? I dance, like Napoleon Dynamite. Like it's ridiculous dancing, not like anything classy at all. I don't know that I could do it if I tried, but Napoleon Dynamite style. And I think everybody's got a vision of that.
A good image, for sure. I love it.
I love gardening. I do these little metal models. I call them my Legos, but they're little metal models that I sit around and do while listening to podcasts or something. I really love hot showers, and I'll put a steamer in there if I really need it to like freshen it up. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but on a rough day, I'll do a hot shower with a cold beer in there, kind of like wine with a bathtub, but
yeah,
I'm not that classy. So cold beer and a hot shower. I put perfume on at night. Nobody smells it. It's just for me. So I do have that. I have a Jeep. So I take the roof off of my Jeep and the doors, and I go, it's so loud that the only thing you can do is play the music even louder. So I blast this ridiculous music when I have the roof off. I can't hear anything, including myself think. And I'll be honest, like most of the time the music is like pretty inappropriate. So like, so it just brings me so much joy to be flying down the highway, listening to this ridiculous music and not thinking about anything else because I couldn't if I tried. I can't hear myself think. So, I love spicy food and I especially love spicy food in the morning. I don't know why. But you told me I don't need a reason for why. So,
No.
so I get my spicy Indian food and I eat the leftovers in the morning for breakfast and it's like the best day ever.
Sounds
So
delicious.
all of these things are just like, hey, I don't know why. My husband's like, whatever. I don't even try to figure it out, right?
Yeah. As long as you're happy, I bet. Is probably his motto.
Yeah, he doesn't care at all. He always told me, I'm never going to tell you not to do something that makes you happy. The problem was that I never knew what made me happy. So it was more of a me thing. And I do want to say, like, I can appreciate that I'm being fairly accountable, which you had said. But I just want to put it out there because I thought a little at first it was a little bit of a stifling of like women empowerment. And I don't think like we all come on here being very accountable because your program tells you to look at yourself and what you can control. It doesn't tell us to ignore everything or our spouse's contribution or pretend like they don't have a part in it. It just really tells us where our power is. So I just wanted to put that out there in case somebody was like, wow, she's taking ownership of everything that went on. It's like, no, but I am taking ownership of my part in it all. He can deal with his.
It's
Yeah.
a great distinction. And at first it sounds like it did land a little bit like, wait, what about him? Is that right? I mean, it feels unfair, I think, when you first.
Yeah, it did. But also like really empowering that I could do something about it without trying to get him on board. You know, he wouldn't go to marriage counseling. He's not going to read these books. Not going to do that. So it was a little bit like, okay, I guess I'll do it all. But again, it was fun. So there's that. And I'm a very controlling woman and you gave me a ton of things about myself that I can control. So just kind of refocus that energy a little bit, you know.
Just the control over to here.
Right? Exactly. I'm like, oh, this I could do. Look, I listen to myself and everything, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I love how far you've come with the self-care list too. The frivolous fun list just kind of bursts forth out of you with this big smile. So I can tell this is like, that's a big change from where you were. It sounds like you weren't getting much frivolous fun at all, which kind of makes life pretty dreary. And your husband was certainly seeing that you weren't happy. You've kind of shared about that. So how did he respond when you started giving yourself frivolous fun? Or did he?
Well, the Cold Wars and the fighting decreased immediately. So like, I think just me putting myself in a good space really refocuses things. And what I mean by that, how do I mean this? Like, you know how everybody says like sleep on it? The self-care is like a instantaneous way to sleep on something, to decide if this is something you really care about or if it's about something else or, you know, is this something I want to get into? So me picking on him for these things that were not reasonable at all or nitpicking the way he approached something or anything, that stopped. So our fights in that regard decreased a lot. And he started just supporting my frivolous fun. He was like, you know, like I said, he was always, I won't ever tell you not to do something that makes you happy. And of course, he's that man that I married and he lived up to it. So he was always like, yeah, go try paddleball or ping pong or I don't know, what's the new thing out there? Pickleball. I tried that. It's not for me, but you know, go try yoga. It's not for me either. You know,
yeah.
Oh God, I just sit there and watch the clock. It's like,
yeah. When is this over?
Yeah, it's like a rare form of torture for me, but I like to kickbox. So there's that. But yeah, so he responded immediately. It was just not like, we were just not fighting as much. And then duct tape was the other one that I kind of started with. I thought, okay, I can probably control this a little bit. And I'll be honest, that one actually felt a little bit stifling at first because I had duct tape, but I didn't have any way of expressing my wants and needs. So until I learned that part, the duct tape decreased the fighting, but it didn't make me feel empowered.
Like more resentful, if anything, right?
A
Because
little bit. Mhm.
yeah, so kind of a dangerous combo to have.
A little bit, yeah. So being in the program, that was one of the things I first went to your coaches with, was like, how do I have a voice if I'm always trying to zip it? And of course they coached me through that. But yeah, that did decrease the fighting immediately. And I knew it was working because before I joined the Ridiculously Happy Wives, I went with him, on a little vacation, impromptu vacation, which is enough in itself. But, we went and he was driving me back from this like Cajun restaurant. And I was like, oh, that was just so good. He goes, anything to make you happy, dear. And he was like holding my hand and stuff. And I'm like, oh, she's right. Like the man just wants to make me happy. I need to figure out how to let him be that man. So that's when I came home and joined the Ridiculously Happy Wives. I was like, there's more here than I can get from a book. So yeah.
That's awesome. That must feel so good. Like,
Oh, it felt so good.
real, he's holding my hand. He'll be happy. He'll do anything to make me happy.
Right? Yeah. I mean, he's still the man I married. So I should have known, but I didn't know how. I didn't know how. And then I started all the other stuff, and I'd love to tell you a little about that. If it's
Yeah,
okay.
let's hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait,
That's kind of why I'm on the podcast. I guess it's fine.
Yeah.
So
Tell us.
the other thing that I think I did a pretty good job on was, issuing an apology. So I immediately, like I said, knew my role in this when you pointed it out so clearly. And I really wanted to lean into that apology. And I did 3 primary ones. I do them all the time now when I mess up. It's really easy for me to be like, I messed up. But these were like really big and they felt like glass, like chewing glass. And the first one I did, was just a general apology I've been thinking about my role in this. And I think there's a lot of places where I've been disrespectful, and I apologize for being disrespectful by being so controlling. And at that point, I don't even think I knew what it meant. But I did feel it. Like it was real. I just didn't know the extent of it. And he was like, keep reading the book.
Oh, he needed to read out of a book.
Yeah, we were sitting there like drinking a beer. We did a lot of beer drinking, sorry. But he was like, he just took a drink. He's like, just keep doing what the book tells you to do. Yeah. Like he immediately felt. And then he let me off the hook big time with the second one, which I think is just kind of a funny story. I hope it's okay to tell it. The second apology I did was when I apologized for the divorces. And I wrote him a text and I said, I want to apologize for me using the D word and threatening our relationship with that. And he wrote back, oh, don't worry about it. I've been called a lot worse than the D word. He was talking about like the DICK word. And I was just like, way to let me right off the hook there, buddy. Like, So I would challenge his receiving a little bit, but at the same time, I was like really grateful for it.
Awesome. So. No, he was so playful though. He let you off light, but he, yeah.
And then the third one, I had like wrote out this big letter, the grand apology of these things that I really recognized. That one took me a couple months to get to. And he did receive that, but interestingly, that one he did not let me off the hook for. I was almost expecting him to say, I got your apology. You don't need to go there. And he didn't. Instead, he said, yeah, we'll see where this goes. And I think if I were to get all over his paper, I think he saw the changes I was trying to make and he didn't yet trust them, which is fair because, we didn't get there overnight. And it took a long time for me to keep showing up the way I did for these changes to really settle in. And I think when I wrote that apology, he was like, I hope all this is true. We'll see.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, that must have been painful though.
A little bit. And
you're so humble to apologize. It's vulnerable. His response was, we'll see. Like scary.
Yeah. Yeah. But your coaches, they kind of got me through that too. Coach Tammy said that, there was a call. It wasn't even mine. And somebody brought up the same thing. I gave an apology and he didn't really say anything. And some people have these like great reactions where everything like instantly changes. she didn't have that. Coach Tammy said, my husband doesn't say anything either, but I notice his actions changing. Like, if I apologize, then I might see him approach me differently, interact with me differently, do something nice for me. And that was really just like such a beautiful heart message that I can kind of hold on to, because he's the same way. He started just interacting differently, showing up differently. So I didn't really need as much of an instant validation at that point, because I was kind of in tune a little bit more to all the things he does do. Yeah.
Wow. And his actions are speaking louder than
Mm-hmm.
those scary words. Like, well, wow. So you opened your eyes a little wider and saw a change in him, how he was showing up
Mm-hmm.
after your apology. Oh, I love it.
And then I struggled a little bit with communication. I told you that I kind of became a mute, and he was never really a fan of how I communicated, because I'd always be telling him what to do or not speaking at all. And the duct tape kind of solidified that not speaking, but I didn't know how to fill the space then, so I had to do a couple things, and I started using the respect phrases of whatever you think and I hear you. And those went a really long way. He mirrors me quite a bit in them now. And the first time, I hear you was okay. I could default to that. Sometimes at first I started saying, I hear you, and I'm going to explain all the reasons why that's wrong. So that took a little bit of refining.
Right,
We're going to have baby steps there, right?
You're a mortal woman, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. Oh,
I hear you, and
at least I'm saying and not but. But
I might have. I don't know now. Now you got me sitting here being like, oh, I probably did say, but yeah. But yeah, I did start saying, I hear you. And then the first time I said whatever you think, was, it was like a question. We have had some trouble with finances in the past, and he had purchased a truck that I wasn't quite aware of, and big things and really sore spots. And he was looking at vehicles to commute in, which was a great idea because his truck uses a ton of gas. So whatever. But then he started looking at muscle cars, which would be fun to drive, but would not fix the problem at all, right? I thought you were getting something more gas efficient, and you're looking at these muscle cars. He's like, what do you think of these, dear? And I was sitting in bed, and I was like, whatever you think. And I turned the other way, because I knew my face was not gonna own that at all. He just started laughing at me. He's like, okay, I really appreciate that you went there, but it's obviously not how you feel about this. So the effort was there, and it got better over time. But at first it was whatever you think, please don't let that be what you think. But I did start trying. You can try and fail these quite a few times and still get a little bit of grace from just the trial. So that was good.
I love that story that you were so busted, right? You're doing your best to be respectful and not control. And he I love his playful responses. It's so fun.
Yeah, he's pretty good at letting me off the hook. Yeah. And then I started using SFPs, self-fulfilling prophecies. These are some of my favorite things, because I feel like they really do a good job of putting me and him in a good spot. So this is self-fulfilling prophecies, and these ideas that, things are going to become what we focus on. And people are going to grow into that role and stuff. And sometimes it can be really challenging to believe them at first. But if you look, you will find them, because what you focus on increases. So for me, these became invaluable, because I would say, yeah, I hear you. And then he would start being like, but what do you think? And it's bait, right? He doesn't actually want to know what I think. He wants me to validate his thoughts in these moments. He's not asking me what flavor ice cream I want. He's asking me what he should do at work. And this is what you would call bait of, don't take it, because I don't know what I'm a nurse. He's this maintenance mechanic manager. There's no reason I know anything about what he does. So I would start filling the space with these self-fulfilling prophecies and just repeating back what he told me. And this was something that I learned from your coaches. I would say, I hear you. And he'd say, yeah, what do you think? I'm like, yeah, this sounds really challenging, because on the one side, you want to be really careful about how you treat your employee. And on the other, you really want to set a standard. And these are things he just told me. Like, I'm not doing anything other than repeating it back to him. And I said, but you know what, hon? You're going to figure this out. You're so good at dealing with these conflicts that I just know you're going to figure this out. And at that point, he started, I think, to feel really heard because, in fact, I was listening. For the first time, maybe ever, I was not thinking about what to say next. I was just listening, repeating it back from him, and telling him what I believe is true. They weren't lies, just, something to grab onto to really just tell him, I trust you to handle this. So those became, they still are just really huge part of our relationship. I trust you on this and you make great decisions. And, I know you're going to figure this out. This conflict sounds really hard. And that's our way of like, I started to feel a little bit more empowered, because the duct tape, like I said, was straining because I wanted to engage with him. And this was a way that I could engage, really support him and commit to him without being that person that was selfish, that told him how to handle everything, which I said was really like just control. He just didn't use that word. Yeah.
What a contrast
So,
to this being that was your big trigger conversation you guys used to have. And here
mhm,
you are having it in a way where at the end you're connected. He feels heard. You feel, like you've expressed yourself, right? You're not a mute anymore. You're not stifled. Uh,
mhm.
you had the opportunity to be respectful in it. And it sounds like you kind of relished that.
I did. I think your program really taught me, it allowed me to be the woman that I wanted to be. So for me, even though these things were scary when I was being asked to try them, it was like, she's really giving me the skills I need to show up the way I want to. I don't want to be that woman. I just don't know how to get to this one. So I was willing to experiment with them because every time I did, just got a little more faith that, the next thing would be okay. So that was a big one though, to be able to have those conversations and not have it deteriorate. Thank goodness. Like he can just keep coming back to me now. I can be like, yeah, yeah.
It's so
So that was
inspiring.
really fun.
Yeah. It's who you always wanted to be anyway. You were just showing up as your best self.
Mhm. Yeah. And then, of
Love.
course, like you have other skills like gratitude. That one was a little bit hard too. I still really struggle with this. So I can say gratitudes in the moment for these small things and stuff, but there's these bigger things that he does all the time in our marriage that are just really worth expressing gratitudes for. And I would struggle with those. So I started with gratitudes by texting them to him. Texting is a really great form of communication when you don't trust yourself because he buys you a little bit of time. Uh, and then I started leaving post-it notes like in his car, or in his wallet. And then I started writing with Expo marker on our mirror. And then those turned really flirty and stuff too. You can be really thoughtful in these moments of, um, of your program, and the gratitudes can often turn that way of, this gets me so excited. Like, I'm so thankful that you did this. It takes this off my plate. And now I have time for, I don't know, whatever I want to insert there, something ridiculously awful that I want to do, eating chili in the morning. I don't know, whatever.
Right.
Or
Driving
like take,
music real loud. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So the gratitudes are a lot of fun. He doesn't say much about them. Like I said, he doesn't like often speak to what I say, but he starts showing up differently. He starts getting asked on dates and he starts going out, and he starts doing things more often. I call it hot husbanding. So like this is what I mean by like awful, right? It's so much more fun than being a like brat about things. So like the other day, we were joking about like, I don't know if you remember that Mr. Clean commercial where he was like vacuuming and stuff. This is like my favorite thing about marriage. So I call it hot husbanding when they do like something that's like vacuuming or dishes and you're like, oh, that's so sexy. So I started doing that with him the other day. He was vacuuming and I was like, oh, you're hot husbanding again. Here you go. Looking all sexy doing the vacuum, right? And then he starts doing the laundry. And then he starts sweeping the floors or getting the kids to do these things. So I don't need to. And I can just like sit back and tell him how much I appreciate it. And he just kind of goes, oh, or like laughs at me. But then he starts doing more, which wasn't the expectation. It's just a lot more fun.
So much more
Yeah.
fun. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you,
So
you get
much
a lot
more.
more help with housework.
Yeah, exactly. It just makes more time for us, you know? So that goes a really long way. Um,
Yeah.
Let me see what else I started kind of doing because it's so fun to talk about these. So my desires were a really hard one for me because I was selfish for all these years. And I've said that 100 times. Like it just feels so wrong to want everything or want anything because then I was going to be that person that he suggested I was. And I really didn't want to be that person. And so for me, having desires was really a challenge. And even when I had them, I like refused to speak them. So I started by like writing them down in my journal. And then I started expressing them, but only the ridiculous things. Like, I would love to go to Kentucky, or wouldn't it be fun to go to Mars? I would love to own this house over there that's $3 million. Like something so extravagant that we can just giggle about it. But it started to build a habit, and writing them down started to make it real. And then I got some coaching on this, and your coaches, who are all fantastic, were like, desires are really a way for you to invite somebody into your life too. And my husband had always said, we live these lives around each other. If we don't have a connection, like I have my life and he has his, and sometimes we end up in the same bed, but it's so transactional. So when your coach said that, I kind of made that connection of, yeah, I think I really am living my life around him and not with him. And desires are a really nice way to invite him into my life, and really like bring us together in that. So I started to try to just get really brave with my desires. And I felt over time, first of all, he never scrutinized me for them. I was expecting him to be like, there you go, being all selfish. And he was like, oh, you want Indian food? Let's go. Like, oh, you want to go to the garden store? Let's do it. So he never like scrutinized me. And then it gave us so many things to do together. And then he started finding things for us to do together. Like, they didn't have carne asada fries on the menu of our favorite restaurant. And I love carne asada fries. And one time he texted me and he said, I asked him if they can do carne asada fries. And they said yes. So now, at least once a week, he says, I bet you need carne asada fries. I said, I would love carne asada fries. Like, I've gained 10 pounds, but they're really good. It's just something for us to do together. So these desires, even though they always feel scary to me, are really a great way to bring us together. Actually, this office, I got it 2 weeks ago because everybody's home right now. The kids are home, he's around, and I had my office in a loft where everybody could get to, and they kept coming in and interrupting. And one time my husband was like, there's a lot of interruptions here. And I said, oh, I would love an office where I can close the door. And he said, oh, let's do it. And the next day, he had my son moved out of this room up to our loft, which worked out great because he's a teenager now and can have all this space. He had all the stuff moved out. I didn't have to touch anything. And when I walked in, he says, do you want to paint it? And I said, I would love to, but I don't need to do it right away. And he goes, no, do it right away. Get it set up the way you want to. So I got my paint, I got a little reading nook, I got everything in 2 nights just because I told him I wanted to close the door, And it was just such like this like lovely moment for him to be like, that I can do. And I can then say how much I love it. And now every time I'm in here, I'm texting him like, oh my gosh, I love my reading nook so much. Like, this is the best thing ever, which is all true. But it opens so many doors for us to connect.
This is how you create connection, not just living around each other. Yeah, but really
Mm-hmm.
feeling connected. Beautiful example.
Mm-hmm.
I love that story.
It
Pretty
really builds a
obvious.
partnership. Yeah. 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 And then I think for me, the last two that I like really leaned into were vulnerability and relinquishing control. I was able to relinquish control of small things pretty early. Like, okay, I don't need to have a say in this. But there were some really big decisions that I was like really struggling with. And I thought vulnerability was me being touchy feely, like I need to cry more. And I was like, I don't want to do that. That's not me. But your coach is really kind of like, for me, explained it like I don't remember how they said it, but for me, it translated to vulnerability is being scared of something and still putting yourself out there. And once I kind of adopted that view, it really helped me with all the other skills because I could relinquish control of something, even though there was so much fear around it. And that was like, I think that's when he finally started to trust the change because bigger things came up that in the past would have just broken us. And I started to say, whatever you think and mean it. And I think relinquishing control of that and being vulnerable in the sense of acknowledging my fear in it. And then even coming to him and being like, you know what? I have a lot of fear around this, but I trust you. I'm just having some fear. And he'd be like, yeah, I do too, but it's going to be okay. That's a lot different than explain the 47 reasons why you think this is right, because I think it's wrong. Yeah. So that one has gone a huge way for us. He decided to do a job transition and stuff. And I was like, okay, I trust you. And it's going to be okay. Like it is. We'll figure it
That's
out no matter
huge.
what. But
Job transition is huge, right? Especially if you have any fear of finance stuff, right? Any fear around money.
Yeah,
You're able to
absolutely.
say whatever you think.
Yep. Yep. And really just tapping into that vulnerable side of being like, yeah, this is scary. And he's like, yeah, it is, or I'm so excited for this and mean it. And like allow those feelings to exist and still trust the process. I think it's just, my understanding of vulnerability has grown a lot. And I think that's what opened us up to the most amount of trust building. You can't build this trust without putting your heart on the line. But I do trust him. I knew the man I married. So if that's true, then I need to be able to show that trust and respect. And he lives up to it. I just had to make some space for him.
Such a beautiful example of vulnerability. And then he showed up vulnerable too.
Yeah.
And it's very moving, actually. It sounds very connected. It sounds very
Mm-hmm.
intimate.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Love that. And so now you're in this exciting space of his job transition that you're both a little afraid about, but it's an adventure instead of a fight.
It is. It's a partnership for sure, as opposed to like like point of contention. And that really brings people closer together. That's the intimacy.
It's
Of course,
intimacy.
that's, I
Oh,
didn't
no.
know.
No. I didn't either. I didn't either. But so, what is your marriage like now? I mean, you're giving us some great examples, but how would you
Mm.
describe it? The overall vibe at your house now?
Yeah. Oh, like anybody else, like it's not perfect, right? The difference is that, I think I was fixated so much on like the outcome, that I forgot the process, and the process is perfect. I have a partner. I have somebody I can talk to, somebody that can come to me. I hope he feels the same way. We make decisions together and he's always finding ways to please me. Like, we go on date nights a couple times a week. And a lot of that is because I get a little cooped up in my office. I don't go anywhere. He's like, let's get you out. Let's go do something. And then on the way, he'll play me this playlist that he made for me. It's a music playlist. He just speaks so much from music. That's just really where like his heart comes from. And he in the process, started sending me songs. And the first one was about how much he loves his wife. And that was just like heart melting. And then a little bit later, he started to send me a song of like his hot wife, which is just a lot more playful. And then over time, he built this playlist of songs that he has either sent to me or that I love. That like he doesn't listen to the same music, but he knows I love it. So every time I get in the car, he puts on the playlist. Or when we go to, our favorite restaurant, he controls the jukebox from his phone. He plays my favorite songs every single time we're there. And then sometimes I go to that place without him and he'll still play those songs for me while I'm there, like
Oh my
from his phone.
gosh.
So I was sitting there with my girlfriends the other day and I was like, this is a great playlist. And I was like, oh my gosh. I texted him like, you're playing the music, aren't you? He goes, yep. This is like just these moments. And of course, like finding opportunities to please me with carne asada fries and then, going and walking around the garden with me and just really kind of engaging in those things that I really love that I don't know that he cares about at all, but he certainly likes to see me happy. So, so all of those he'll just kind of do. So the environment is really kind of fun. The job transition has been really challenging and it's got a lot of anxiety around it. But I have a community. I have, my best friend Bethany is like one of the women that you would have interviewed. She just naturally embodies these skills. So I can always go to her and be like, what am I missing here? And then I have my best girlfriends who I can call at any time and they're just so supportive. So anytime I get into this like needless emotional turmoil or net that you call it, I have these resources and skills to tap into to make sure that I'm putting my energy where I want it and showing up the way I want to. And that's where the empowerment comes from. It's not a manipulation or silencing. I think that me being able to show up how I want and communicate in a way that is what I want for me is really where that empowerment goes. And I feel like I have more of a voice now than I ever did.
I love it. And you're doing much less.
Oh yeah. Yeah. My kids eat cereal like 4 nights a week. I don't know how they survive, but yeah, the laundry doesn't get done unless they bring it to me, which I think is a fair compromise. Like, okay, you're 9, like, yeah, bring it to me and I'll wash it. But if you're not going to pull it over here, then you're going to go to school in dirty clothes. Like, that's fine. I don't pack their lunches anymore. I pay for it. We go out to dinner all the time. We downsized quite a bit on the property because I just couldn't do it all. I just can't. And I told him that. I'm like, I can't do it all. And so we shrank the garden quite a bit. So now it's of a size that I love working in. I don't feel overwhelmed by. We don't have as many homestead things. But instead we decided to like kind of get away from that. And we go off-roading all the time in our side by side as a family. And the changes that we've made around here have not only like decreased my daily workload, but really kind of made it so that we can up and go. And that's huge too, to be able to do as a family. So yeah, I do a lot less. I only have one job right now too. I quit that second job, which yeah, that was a lot of work.
And do you still manage the finances?
Actually, we do that as a partnership. Yeah. So that was an interesting one. I handed over the finances like you recommended in your book, like that style of you never tell anybody to do anything. So I'm putting that out there in case somebody's like, she's telling me what to do. You say, if you want to hand over the finances, this is how I recommend doing it. So I did that and he took over and he did a great job. But then he started to say, Kate, I feel like you're not involved in any of these decisions. I feel like I'm making all these decisions and choices without involving you. So when he came to me and said that, I started to get more involved in those decisions. So I don't handle the day-to-day finances anymore, which is really where that anxiety came from. But anytime a decision comes up or a big purchase or anything, we make all of those together. So that feels really good to kind of like be in a partnership of, I don't want to babysit you. I don't want to be your mom of managing your finances, but I do want to be involved in these decisions. So that's the compromise and the safe spot that we found.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. What a great example of you being the expert on your own life. You didn't enjoy the day-to-day, like bill paying, or having to buy his red bill at the store to save 25 cents or whatever. But you like, being partners in big decisions, like whether he's going to buy a muscle car or a good commuter car, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I mean, that sounds great to me. Yeah. It sounds intimate, like financial intimacy.
Yeah.
And it sounds amazing what you've created, Kate. And obviously you threw yourself into the intimacy skills in a big way, very committed way, because a lot of this, it sounds like it didn't come that natural, but felt like really awkward at first, but it's helped you become your best self. So so you've embraced it. What would
Hmm.
you say to somebody who is where you were, where she's looking up divorce attorneys or like having these meltdowns, like the one you described, where she feels like that's the only way she can communicate. Like, this is the only way I'm going to get through to him is by maybe screaming it late at night when my kids are sleeping. And she
Yeah.
wants what you have, where he's like your mobile DJ that's always playing your favorite songs, no matter whether you're together or not. Even if you're at he knows where you are, and he just makes sure that happens. And where he's like making sure you get an office and it's all painted in the way you want it right away. Um, and yeah, and he's sending you love songs about his hot wife. Like, what should she do? What do you recommend?
Well, what she should do is find your book. I think we all say that, like find it and just give it a shot, do some experiments. But I think before that, I would tell her that I hear her and I see her and I see how much she's trying to do. And I think I would tell her that, uh, you deserve to be loved and cherished, and so does your husband. And there's a way to do that that doesn't involve doing more, more, and more. And I think that every person should know that they deserve that in their relationship. That's why they got married. And there is a way to get there. And maybe it's not right for everybody, um, but it's right for a lot of us. And if you've tried everything else, like, don't give up yet. There's still hope. There's still something else. There's something different. And I'm hoping that she would hear me and really latch on to just take the risk of doing something differently, because the potential for impact is just huge.
Amazing. You're a beacon of hope of what's possible. When or doing those experiments to see if they fit for you, and then being able to tweak them if they don't. Which
Yeah,
I love. It takes a lot of courage to do that. So I love that.
thank you.
What would you say to yourself if you could go back in time? Say, here's what
Mm,
I know now.
yeah, I thought about this a lot. You ask it, and also, like, obviously, I'm thinking about these. I think I would tell myself that I don't need to earn my worth. Um, the more I do, the more I did, I thought it would equate to, like, now I'm more lovable. And that's not how things work, especially in my relationship. So I think I would really tell myself that, you're already worthy and you don't need to work harder at that. Um, and hopefully I would listen when I told myself, hey, find these a little bit sooner. But to be honest, I don't think I was ready for the skills until I found the skills. That would that would have been really, really rough to have passed him over at any point before. But I don't think I was ready. And I would tell myself, I didn't tell you this. I would tell myself, hey, you have an opportunity to have everything you want if you can drop the ego associated with it, and you can get love songs, and you can be cherished, and you can be, chased and flirted with. And my husband bought us, seventh row seats, Avalanche season tickets because I wanted them. So like you can have this opportunity to just be cherished and have somebody really um, show you that they are the person you thought they were. You didn't make a mistake when you married this person. He is that man that you knew he would be 40 years from the day you got married. It's you that's changed. So hopefully I would listen to myself. Um, I can be really stubborn. So
Yeah. Well, I love how you acknowledged like the pain. The pain was real that you were in.
mhm.
It wasn't, yeah, it really, and you didn't know what you didn't know. And as soon as you did know, you changed things really dramatically, really impressively, in a very inspiring way. So, yeah, so I love that. And I heard you say, if you give up your ego, and it's interesting because you sound more confident. You sound like you've
Yeah.
gained a lot of confidence from this, which
I
I guess
think,
is,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
go ahead.
Yeah, I think, I think the program is correctly entitled The Empowered Wife. And before, I was fearful. And sometimes that fear came out as like really strong personality, strong, like kind of fearless. But that's not the same thing as empowerment. And I think the empowerment has really like gained my confidence to like trust in this relationship and trust that I can be safe in it. And that's really like what's transformed things, is to have that intimacy with this person that you've always wanted it with, right? Like that's where the confidence comes from, is that no, it's going to be okay. Like it might be hard. It might not be great all the time. It'll be great a lot of the time. But it's all going to be okay, because now I have these skills to be able to get through anything.
Love that. And how do you think it's impacted your kids?
Those guys are funny. Um, my son is a little bit older. He's just turned 12, and he is like so empathetic. Like he's kind of opposite of me. Like he just feels everything. And I've noticed like a feeling of like, I feel like I lifted a lot of weight off of his shoulders by not only like not being this anxious person, but also like trusting him with some of his own decisions and stuff. When you're telling your children, I want you to go work harder at this sport, or I want you to take that class, I want you to do that, like he's going to try to please me regardless of how much it's not a fit for him. And that really builds his anxiety. So relinquishing control over that and owning my own emotions, I think has really like allowed him to kind of grow into himself. My daughter's a little bit younger, and she's kind of a different personality. And what I've really noticed with her is that she's very expressive with her feelings. I feel angry. I'm like, oh, you do, little child. Okay. And she expresses gratitude so much. The other night we were at dinner, and my parents bought dinner. She just goes and sits on grandma's lap and is like, thank you so much for buying dinner. And that just melts them. And then of course, my husband's relationship with the kids is their own now too, which, has just improved so much with me staying out of it, because my son is old enough to speak up for himself if he's hurt, and he said that he's like, I don't think that's fair, Dad, and they can have that conversation then as two men, essentially. And then my daughter she's still spoiled, I'll be honest. But Daddy loves her. Daddy loves her, and they have a great relationship. And I'm like, oh, you're killing me with this girl gets everything, right? But he does make sure like she obviously, what I really love is that my husband does all this while still like respecting me. Like he'll never let them get away with something that I've already told him no. And he'll make sure they're treating me the way that is respectful. So we still have this like connection. It's just that everybody has their own lives that they can come to the table with and bring people into as they would like, but not be forced for it to look a certain way.
It sounds like you're the surrendered mama now too, as well as an empowered wife. Yeah.
Yeah. The kids are hard, I mean, that's a hard one, because you're like, where's the line on that, but we seem to be in a good spot, so it's okay for now.
It's awesome. Well, it sounds like your family life sounds really like enviable. It's like what everybody wants. Like these details about, my daughter, she can get away with murder, but that's like between her dad and her, and you're there to be your mom, not her mom and her dad, or to be the
Right?
the dad improver. So it sounds very free and dignified, and also like, I mean, I kind of hear you feel like you're your best mom now too. Is that true?
Yeah, I think there's a real weightlessness that comes with not being responsible for everything everywhere. And it does have like a fear of relinquishing control, of course, but there's so much more space for joy. And then I think everybody can feel that when you start kind of introducing that to your family.
So, and one more question, speaking of that. So your husband's mental health challenge, it's still
Yeah.
there? He still gets treatment or takes medicine or whatever? Is that right?
Yeah. He does great. Yeah, he's fine.
Okay.
No, I mean, like, these things are never going away. Like, right, we all have our chronic issues that we deal with, diabetes or whatever or whatnot. But he's a grown man and he knows what he needs to show up the way he wants. And I've really seen, I just said it, but like when you create space for somebody, you back up off of them, assuming you have any reasonably good man, they're going to step in and grow to that role. And he just does fantastic with so many things that, I couldn't ever force him to do no matter how hard I tried. And that's one of them. Like, it's a non-issue for us. So I don't know that, I mean, it probably should have never been an issue. Like he's fantastic, but that's definitely a non-issue.
So it doesn't hurt you, doesn't hurt your relationship, doesn't hurt your kids. It's not a thing.
No, and he has a right when he's having a bad day to be like, I'm having a bad day. It's like, okay, yeah, me too. I'll just go over here, you go over there. Like,
Yeah.
But before, had he sent that to me, I'd be like, well, did you take your medicine? And did you try these 17 things? And did you, like, here I am to try to make you happy. It's like, no, I think you got this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's awesome. Congratulations. I definitely want to give you the Best Wife Award.
Yay!
Congratulations, Kate. You did it. You did it.
Thank you.
Huge
I'm so excited.
accomplishment. Yeah. It is exciting. I can't really think of anything that I think is more impressive than what you've done by, saving your marriage, fixing your family, putting it right, like becoming so dignified. Yeah, like, and creating that intimacy, that connection that is such a great strengthener, such a great glue for a marriage. And, it's such a good example for your kids too, of what a good marriage looks like. So well done.
Thank you. Yeah, and a good marriage and a happy relationship with myself, was feeling pretty down there for a while, pretty empty, and the process has brought me a lot more joy to myself and who I am. And that's a huge win. If it was just that, the marriage was just, I don't know, a huge extra, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear it. Well, and your joy just kind of beams out of you. Like, I don't know if it's the spicy food in the morning or, the music in the Jeep or whatever it is, but, I just love your glow, your happy glow. And you seem to be just kind of spreading that wherever you go too, which I love.
Thank you. I lose it sometimes, but I know how to get back.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like any mere mortal woman. So,
Yep.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all this, such personal stuff, such vulnerable things that you shared with us. It's been very inspiring.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate everything you've done for all of us.
Thank you. For more of the proven secrets on how to make your marriage playful and passionate without his conscious effort, check this out.